It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Kyle Knopp, and this is the Hockey Writers Grindline, the Red Wings roundtable for the hockey writers. For the past 5 years, the Grindline has been a weekly written column for the hockey writers, and now we're here to talk some Red Wing hockey. We are excited for another opportunity to discuss the latest Red Wings news, rumors, and strategy with the Hockeytown faithful. So including myself, let's introduce our version of Chris Draper, Kirk Maltby, and Darren McCarty. Starting with Pat Brown. How are you today, Pat?
Doing great, Kyle. Always a great way to kick off. Well, we're kicking off a weekend, but anytime, really. So good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And also, as always, we have the talented Devin Little. Devin, great job this week on the roundtable with the Hockey Writers Live. And how's that been?
Thank you. Yeah, if you haven't gotten a chance to yet, you should definitely check that out. I had the opportunity to talk some Central Division with Jim Parsons and Greg Boyce, and that was a lot of fun. How the rest of you two doing? Happy to be here with you both.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to, as always, like Pat said, kick the weekend off this way. So can't ask for any better start to Friday night.
Or any night, whenever you're watching.
Absolutely.
Shout out to our Monday night crew.
Yeah, so anyway, let's get started by first quickly touching on this past week, and then we have some big news with a couple trades or maybe a lack of trade due to an injury. So I want to start with one good thing and one bad thing from this past week of games. Pat, start with you.
So we'll say one good thing, definitely their effort against Tampa Bay in a 5-1 win, I believe it was. Slacking on my job here, guys, but didn't even really have a chance to watch it. Continually got updates, and I was pretty convinced my phone was wrong. So that was great to see, a good effort, and was just really happy to see that. Now the bad news, or the one bad for the week that I would say, is yesterday's effort. So I feel like there's good effort and there's bad effort, because yesterday was another one of those games, and I think Glenn Denning said it afterwards. How many times we got to do this? How many times we got to go through this and say we're sick of it? And almost sounded like a version of, if I'm being honest, the 2005 Tigers, maybe the 2004 Tigers. But it almost sounded like that. So that's my good and bad for the week, Kyle.
Okay, that's great points there. Devin, how about you? You're good, you're bad from this past week?
So my good, I have to throw it out to their effort against Tampa Bay, like Pat said. Whenever you can have two solid efforts against the reigning Cup champs, you gotta applaud that. But my actual good, I'm gonna say, is the play of Thomas Greiss. He's really showed up the last 5 games or so. I believe he has a .935 save percentage in the last 5 games. So good for him. That's kind of the goaltending that we were hoping to see when he arrived this past offseason. And then my bad, excuse me. Like Pat said, and like Glenn Denning said, how many more 7-1 losses does this team need before they realize that they can't keep making these same mistakes? And it's against Nashville too. Literally, I think you had said it, Kyle, in the article you put out today. It's like deja vu. It was literally the Predators a week or two ago that beat them 7-1. And they had a big old practice, and sure, they showed up the next game, but they need to stop requiring getting spanked before they show up good the next game.
That's a great point. And actually, I had a conversation with a fan on Twitter today, and they asked about what is the Detroit Red Wings record in 1-goal games, or losses in 1-goal games. And they have 6 losses out of their 23 have been by 1 goal, 4 have been by 2, and then 13 have been by 3 or more. So it's just showing like there's, those close games, when they're there, we can be in them. But once they get 1 or 2 down, it really snowballs from there. For my good and my bad, my good, I definitely want to give props to Greiss again. He's had a phenomenal week after that last shelling that he took in against the Predators. So he's really come back and stepped his game up. And then one bad point I just want to point out, the penalty kill has been looking good, but we did give up that late power play goal, which turned into the goal that tied the game and then lost it in the shootout against the Preds in that first game. And if we steal that game in regulation right there, maybe we don't see the 7-1 whooping the next night. But again, that's all speculation, and the team needs to show up more than they have in the past. So yeah, sorry, go ahead, Pat.
And I don't want to. This will be the last thing I say, but we talked about it last week. Yes, the penalty kill has been abysmal, but it was a stupid penalty that put them there yet again in that type of position. You're not going to give up a power play goal if you don't take penalties.
Great
and
point.
you got to minimize those careless mistakes. And again, it was frustrating to watch. And I want to call that out because we mentioned it last week. It seems like they give up the goals on the really bad penalties that they take. So stop taking bad penalties. I'm done.
It's a great point, and if only it was as easy as saying that, right? But yeah, so we got some big news today. A couple of trade deadline news right before we record here. The first, earlier this morning, we found out Bobby Ryan is done for the season due to an injury. And then shortly ago, we just found out that Patrick Nemeth was traded to Colorado for a 4th round pick, which is right where Tony had him in the last couple pieces he put out. He had him going for a 5th and a 3rd. So, of course, the Wings would get a 4th out of it. But what are your thoughts on Ryan and Nemeth? Devin, we'll start with you.
So starting with Ryan, I mean, talk about a blow below the belt, right? We've been talking about Ryan as kind of the if not the Red Wings' top trading chip, one of their top chips. And now it's not going to happen. It's disappointing for him, I'm sure. It's disappointing for us. It's disappointing for Yzerman. But you know what? I think that now we have an opportunity to really see just how genuine Ryan is when he says he's enjoyed his time in Detroit and he would be interested in returning. I think it would be in the Red Wings' best interest to actually re-sign him now and then take another shot next year and try to do what they tried to do this year. It's unfortunate, but you can make the best of the situation. And as for Nemeth, good return. Nemeth's been kind of a bottom pairing guy this season. So if you're getting a 4th rounder for that, you can't complain too much. There's a part of me that's a little upset because he played a lot better last season compared to this season. And I know that he would have fetched a bigger return had they flipped him last year, but you can't predict that. You can't predict 1 year to the next. So at the end of the day, you take the 4th, you're happy with it, and you're excited to see what the next deal is.
Great point. Patrick, your thoughts?
Yeah, Devin captured the sentiment around Bobby Ryan. It's too bad. I feel bad for him. I'm sulking and licking my wounds as a Red Wings fan because everybody thought you were going to get some kind of return. By far the top chip if you don't take a player like Mantha into consideration, and we don't know what his status is when it comes to his trade status. So that was really disappointing. Would love to see him. I actually think it's going to be difficult to re-sign him. I think there may be some other teams looking to make a push that may have a chance right out of the gate. So we'll see. I would love to see him re-signed and see what happens next year, but completely agree with Devin. The Nemeth trade, perfect. Tony, not worthy. That's one of many, I'm sure, throughout the next few days that we'll be seeing that he called right. But how can you be upset with a 4th round pick for an average defenseman? In my opinion, I suppose, but I don't know many who would dispute that. It's a good move. It gets you. It was 2022, right? So it gets you some assets that you want to start acquiring for next year. Maybe that asset can be used to flip and move up next year somewhere else. We'll see, but good move. Hopefully, it's the first of at least a few that Yzerman can pull off. But no matter what, I think it's a good move.
I do want to quick jump in and just say that move gives Detroit now 3 4th round picks in next year's draft. So maybe to Pat's point, maybe they can utilize them to move up or turn into something else. So it's good to have bullets in the chamber, so to speak.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if not, we are going to dominate the 4th round of next year's draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen it in the past before when Yzerman was with the Lightning. He's been able to package some of those trades that he's got and then turn around and include them in another deal and then get even more return. So, I mean, this is a great jumping off point, for the trade deadline coming up on Monday at 3 p.m. That's Monday, April 12th. And so, this gets the ball rolling. And I think, we saw Namath kind of get lost in the 6th, 7th, 8th role this year. And so to get a 4th back for him is huge. It clears up some roster space to really get some of our younger guys more ice time, which I think will be great for development as well, which we can't touch enough on today, huh? Any other thoughts on Nemeth going to Colorado or Bobby Ryan? Either coming back next year or what it means to lose him for the rest of the season.
Keep him coming.
I just want to say I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall or a fly on the line overhearing a trade discussion between Steve Yzerman and Joe Sakic.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that entailed. So
two number 19s. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Two
maybe
captains.
Maybe that's the next 30 for 30 doc in a couple of years. So with that, I'd like to take a quick break. And if you're enjoying our show, please make sure that you give us a like and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and any other social media site that you use. And also, please follow along with the Hockey Writers shows. We have a great schedule that we put out on a weekly basis. We have the Hockey Writers Live, which is our flagship show, and they just recently did the Deadline premiere show, which Devin was a part of this past week. And there's segments on each division, as well as the full show, which is just unreal insight onto any potential trade that might happen. And then also make sure you're checking out our other programs as well. We have the Sabres Scoop, the Back Check, the Oilers Overtime, Blackhawks Banter, the Flames Face Off, and the Maple Leafs Lounge, as well as thousands of articles at hockeywriters.com that you could easily browse and get your hockey news all at one convenient location. So moving on, speaking of Ryan in the trade deadline, Tony Wolak, our fearless leader, recently released another trade scenario this week, focusing on 6 different trades that he could make. We've already discussed the Ryan trade or lack thereof now with his injury. That was one of the trades, but there are 5 other ones that we'd like to touch on. So I'm going to start with you, Devin. Let's start with Gagne going to Toronto for the center prospect, Mikhail Abramov. What are your thoughts on that trade?
Excuse me. I like it. Gagne's been a bottom sixer all season, and a surprisingly defensively sound one at that. So on the Toronto side of things, good for them. That's kind of a player that I think that, or at least the mold of a player that I think they should actually pursue. And then to get Abramov back, I don't have as much of a stump speech to go with him as I did for Tulio last week. But I like taking on prospects. I like if Gagne was a throw-in on the Athanasio deal, and to get a piece that could potentially actually be a part of the future, an Abramov, on top of the 2 seconds that you got for Athanasio, I'm in. Approve.
Okay, Pat, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's fine. Like, nothing to get crazy excited about. I'm good with it. All the points Devin hit, I think it's important. I pulled up Tony's article over here just as a reference, and I wish I would have looked up ahead of time, because he does call out his success, almost a point per game at the QMJHL level, which is great. But I think my cousin Kevin once told me, we were talking about Mantha. I was excited about Mantha, I think, years and years ago. And I think he said, well, Chris Draper was a 60-goal scorer in the QMJHL or something like that. I may have it completely wrong, so save your comments. I'll look it up. But the point remains, It's fine.
Shout
Bless
out to
you.
cousin Kevin there, and
you.
bless you to Devin.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, those are great points. And, the Q is kind of hard to judge, at least in my opinion, sometimes. The next trade that Tony talked about was Bernier and Merrill. Bernier keeping 50%, retaining 50% of his salary, and Merrill going to Colorado for JT Compher and right defenseman Connor Timmins. Devin, your thoughts on this trade?
So we already know that at least the Merrill part of this probably isn't going to happen now that they just acquired Nemeth. But I do see Bernier still being in play for them. Now, obviously, that would change the return on the deal, I assume. But judging it on the deal that is, I like it. And I like it for a couple of reasons. One, JT Compher is a useful player that isn't an older guy. We've kind of been talking about, I know last week we talked about Kyle Turris as a guy that could come over, and he's in his 30s. Compher's not in his 30s. He's a guy that the Wings could actually sign to like a 2-year deal, and it's not a crazy idea. And he can play a role for the Wings going forward. And then Timmins, defensive prospect, closer to the NHL than a lot of their other guys. So it's a way to get young on the blue line while also kind of holding down the fort while guys like Johansson and Tuomisto and the gang continue to develop in the lower leagues. And maybe Timmins becomes a guy that they can go into the future with. And you're giving up John Merrill, who was brought here on a 1-year deal. So theoretically, he was getting brought in to get dealt away. And Bernier, who, as much as, I made my case for keeping him last week, you can always circle back and try to get him back in the offseason. So you're getting 2 pieces that you can go into the future with, potentially. And you're not giving up, honestly, a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
Those are great points. Great points. Pat, would you like to elaborate on that there, Bill?
Yeah, well, I would say let's take all of Colorado's former players, sign them, and then send them back. I like it. I like it a lot. It's a sound strategy. If we could send them like Milan Hajduk and Mike Ricci as well, like let's just keep the train going. But
let's grab Calfoot and pretend his name is Adam, and then
Adam, there we go. I like it. So yeah, it's fine. Obviously, Devin made all the points with Merrill, and he'd be off the table. Would Colorado take Bernier? There's no risk for Detroit. Any assets we can get in return, it's great. And if we lose Bernier, frankly, we'll probably lose more games and strengthen the Red Wings' chances in the upcoming draft lottery. So no issue there either.
Yeah. So right before the Namath trade happened, this was probably one of my favorite ones. I really liked the return we were getting for both these players. And like you said, they were both pretty much rental players this season, knowing that they were going to be dealt or that there was a very good chance that we were going to try to deal them. So I really like getting Compher and Timmins back. Timmins could be a pretty good right side to our defensive core as the young guys are coming up in the next 3-4 years. And like you said, Compher, I want to say he's like 25, 26 still. He's pretty young. He can play the right side, which we've struggled with a little bit, having some depth on the right wing that are younger for the future. So I think that would have been a great return for that trade. Now, I don't see it happening. Obviously, we already sent them 1D. Bernier kind of didn't make his case great the other night. There's still a chance he could get moved, but I don't think we're going to get 1 or 2 prospects coming back for it. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, though, in the next couple of days as teams need a solid goaltender backup for their teams. Sure. So for the next one, Mark Stahl retaining 50% to the New York Islanders, who just had a big trade day yesterday as well, for a 2022 third-round pick. Pat, starting with you.
All day. day. Keep half that salary. Send him for the last pick in the draft for all I care. And to be honest, that's not even a knock on Stahl, because I think Stahl has performed at least marginally better than anybody expected this year.
Better than you think, I think is what you said.
that was my exact. No, it was actually he's not as bad as you think he is.
That's right.
Because I put the disclaimer that I'm not saying he's good, just saying he's not as bad as you think he is. But the fact that Yzerman got a second rounder for obtaining him, and then we had a serviceable defenseman for pretty much the entire year. And then if you could bring in another pick, I'm dead serious. I don't care if somehow it ends up just being the last pick in the draft because the Islanders win the Stanley Cup. Sell.
Great points. Devin, over to you.
I'm not going to elaborate too much. Pat pretty much hit the nail on the head. You take that deal and then you laugh to the bank.
Great point. Yep, I totally agree. This is a done deal. And let's hope that Islanders are still looking for a defenseman, because I like this one a lot. All right. The final trade that Tony put together for us: Anthony Mantha to Los Angeles for center Tyler Madden, left defenseman Tobias Jornfa, and a 2021 first round pick. Devin, do you take it?
All right. So I didn't elaborate on the last one because I'm going to elaborate on this one. I, knowing that we were going to talk about this, I've been thinking about it more or less all day, and I've gone back and forth all day. The gem of this deal is the first round pick. LA is not a Stanley Cup contender. So it's not like they're dealing the 30th pick for Mantha. We're talking about a potential top 15 pick for, in this return. And that is certainly valuable. And you could make an argument that just the pick for Mantha would be worth it. To then also add in Madden and how did you say his last name? I learned something today. I thought it was Bjornfor. How do you pronounce that?
Jornfa.
Okay.
Devin, you stole my thunder, because the first thing I was going to say was, Kyle, please pronounce his last name again. But
I had to look it up. I wanted to be right.
You jumped into a different language stratosphere when you pronounced that last name. So kudos to you, but sorry, Devin.
No worries. So yeah, to then add in those guys, you're getting two legitimate prospects that I think have NHL upside, and I think will play in the NHL. To what quality we can debate, but you're getting a very good pick and two legitimate prospects for Anthony Mantha. I think I take it, but I'm not convinced of it. We talked about last week where the Mantha for Byram swap. I would need kind of coaxing into it. I feel like I could be easily talked out of this deal. It all comes down to that pick. How much do you value that pick? I value it a lot, but I also want more than just a pick. And I feel like as you can tell, I'm torn on this one big time. So how do you two feel about it?
Yeah, Pat, would you like to go ahead?
I would say anything I say about trades, take with a grain of salt, because I am the Mike Milbury to Tony Wolak's Steve Yzerman in the GM world, if you will. But I take it and run. Devin, to his point, and I completely agree, and this is where I'll end my statement, I would take it just for the first round pick alone. We're talking hands down, pretty much a top 15 pick. I don't know why you would do that right now if you're LA, because you're not pushing for anything. So I wouldn't pull the trigger on that. Use my first round pick and go from there. But just for the first round pick alone, I would do that trade, let alone the bonus, the bonus prospects in addition. So absolutely, I make that trade.
I think I'll kind of close my thoughts on this. If you could say keep the two players, and instead of the two players, either give a prospect that is maybe just a bit more valuable than those two, then you probably get me to say yes. Or even just like a second round pick in next year's draft. I just want a little bit more than those two players. I don't know. And I'd even like go backward and say, how about a Mantha for Alex Turcotte type of swap? I don't know that they would. I don't know that they would go for that. Mm-hmm. But that to me is like what I'd be gunning for if I was trying to make a deal with LA.
Okay, that's an interesting thought as well. Ian's gonna have a field day with us.
I've been thinking this the whole.
He's like, last week you wanted a pick with a player, and now you got two players to pick, and you still won't get rid of them.
Kyle, it's so true. So true.
It's true.
From the Red Wings standpoint, I have to say this is a total win for us. I'm actually surprised the Kings writer agreed to this. I don't remember who it was or what the circumstances that Tony coursed him into this trade was, but I mean, how do you not say no to a first round pick this year? And then
that high,
yes, it's going to be high. That's the other point, is it's going to be a high pick.
If Tampa Bay's offering a first rounder, you might think twice about it. Like if there's nothing else included, but with LA, I think it's a done deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So my final thought on that would be, yes, take it. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but for the Jornfa, I'm all for it. So
isn't that like a helmet maker brand? Isn't that something like Jofa?
No, I think it's. I thought it was a dresser chest from IKEA.
It might be. So,
holy cow.
Final deadline thoughts based on the trades we made, the trades we've seen happen. Before we get into our final thought, any further final deadline thoughts on these trades and the ones that we've already seen? Pat.
Make it happen, Stevie. Make it happen. That's my final thought. We will all bust out the green hoodies. Steve Yzerman COVID press conference style if he makes this some more deals next week.
Perfect. Devin, final thoughts on trades?
Classic Steve Yzerman pose, just kind of. Anyways, like Pat said, get it done. If any of these deals, if they're even in the ballpark of what we've been talking about, I want to see most of them get done. And then just in a very broad sense, I am very interested to see how this deadline plays out. Mm-hmm. We've heard a lot of talk, but also a lot of talk about how the market is depressed because of outside influences. So one of those things is going to be wrong, and I'm curious to see which one it is.
Absolutely. My final thoughts are, I like the noise that's starting to be made. I thought the Islanders did a great job opening things up yesterday. Slower moves, smaller moves are starting to trickle in. I like the Nemeth to Colorado move. I want to see this keep rolling. We were talking a little bit before we started recording that some coaches are saying, don't expect a lot. But then you start hearing GMs say it's just getting started. And I'm leaning toward the GM side on that. So I hope we do get to see all these moves. So for our final segment tonight, the team that wins the deadline will be Devin.
The team that wins the deadline, I'm gonna say something crazy. It's gonna be the one of the Florida teams. Okay. I think Tampa Bay could do some cap finagling since the cap doesn't seem to apply to them. And they could get a player like David Savard, and all of a sudden that defense looks. It already looks phenomenal, and it would look even better with David Savard. And then on the show that I did where we talked about the Central Division, I mentioned the Panthers as a team that could make a big play. They they just opened up a lot of cap room by moving Connolly to Chicago. And I think that they plan on doing something with that cap room. I've seen Taylor Hall. I don't know that is necessarily the route they'll go, but they have the room to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Panthers really try to cash in on their very strong season.
Okay. Pat, your thoughts? The team that wins the deadline?
So what I think is interesting is how we would define win the deadline. I thought about that because, frankly, in this sense, I think winning the deadline is more the route Devin went, where we're talking about giving your team a real solid chance to win the Stanley Cup. But 6 years from now,
Yeah.
it could be a team that's the bottom feeder that ended up winning this deadline, depending on what they do with any assets they acquire. Now, all of that said, and the proverbial dominoes are falling, I think the Islanders win. I think we've already seen the winner of the deadline. I think it's very, very clear the Islanders are in win now mode, painfully clear. And I think when it's all said and done, they really started it with a bang, all the trade activity. They may not be done. And I think Thomas Greiss is very sad. But I think the Islanders are the winners already, and it will continue to be that way.
Excellent point to both of you. I think, my opinion, I want to say right now the Islanders are leading. If they were to go out and get a defenseman, especially a strong defenseman to shore up their back end, I think they certainly win it. The Panthers definitely are making the room to make something big happen.
Oh yeah.
So that's really exciting to see.
Very.
Devin, it could be Hall. That seems to be the common theme everyone is thinking is it's going to be a Hall type player. He might fit in well there. That could be a whole nother show we could discuss on. But so my current leader, I would have to say, is the Islanders, and I'll give them the nod if they shore up on the back end. But my dark horse right now is Toronto. They kind of made a small move today to what looks to be clearing up a bunch of cap space as well. And what other team is in more of a win now mode than Toronto? So I think the Maple Leafs are going to make some noise tomorrow, probably Sunday, and into early Monday morning. So it's all going to be really, really fun to see. I hope in 6 years we can all come back and say the Red Wings won this because we just went back to back to back. But that's down the road, and I'm not going to put that in writing. So I do have one surprise question for you both.
Oh boy.
Does Taylor Hall get moved, Devin?
I think he gets moved. I'm going to be very interested to see what he gets moved for. I don't know that Buffalo's going to get exactly what they want, but I do think they will move him.
Okay. Pat.
So glad you asked, because I wanted to talk about it anyway. He will not be acquired by any GM that knows what they're doing. So Ken Holland might take him on. But,
there's rumors.
God, if that actually happens. I'll tell you, as a hockey fan in Phoenix and been to a ton of Coyotes games, I try to cheer for them as my second team since we're here, and we try to support hockey in the desert so my kids can grow up playing. Was not impressed, and then he piled on that with his performance in Buffalo this season. Yep. Not that it's all on him, but he is arguably a way better team than what Arizona put together last year. And, he's just not – I'm not a big believer in Taylor Hall. I'm sure he's a fine person. And if we ever meet Taylor, cheers. But I would not make a deal for him, having watched his track record the past couple of years. And I don't think he goes anywhere. I don't think Buffalo is going to get what they want.
And what a weird player too, because he either has years where he's like one of the top left wingers or top wingers in the league. Yeah. He had that MVP season 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And he was the first overall pick in 2010 for a reason. But then in between those years, you have years like this year, and he does not look like a player that's worth the first round pick. So yeah, to your point, Taylor Hall is quite the enigma.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I wanted to put it out to you guys.
It's a good question. What do you think?
I don't see him getting moved, mostly for the same reasons you said, Pat. I think the GMs that have been watching him these past, few years see that there is something there. But, for a young team or a team that is really hurting on a wing, he could be a catalyst. And, they keep saying, is a new change of scenery good? Will it be good for Taylor Hall? Did not happen in Buffalo, but that happens to most careers. So, if he were to go to a Florida or back to Edmonton and be on the third line and not have that same pressure, he could surprise some people.
So can I throw a curveball out? And I know we're getting to time, but I have a text that came in 15 minutes ago.
Oh boy.
I'm just looking at it from one Ian McNaughton. And I haven't even opened my home screen. It's just on my home screen. And it says, this is great. If you're Yzerman, what would you be willing to trade if you wanted to acquire Hall? Ian, creepy. Are we broadcasting live by accident? In any case, Ian, my answer is, and I can't wait to talk with you about this. I don't. I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. That's mine. Anybody else? I'm sorry to take over the role for a minute, but I had to throw that out there. No. Kyle Devin, if you're Yzerman, do you deal for Hall?
No.
I don't.
Oh, we're gonna hear about that one.
I don't see him fitting in the rebuild structure.
Yeah.
And so I don't see it being the right fit.
He's someone that I wouldn't mind them maybe signing in the offseason to try to do what Buffalo tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I'm not banking on it by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that, thank you again for watching our show. This is another episode of the Hockey Writers Grind Line. Please make sure to like, follow, share all of our content on Facebook, Twitter, and any other social media site that you use. The more that you share our stuff, the more we can then turn around and give back to you in forms of our content and our writing as well. If you enjoyed our show or our articles, please make sure to leave a comment either on our Facebook page or on our article page at the Hockey Writers. We enjoy commenting and talking hockey with fans and readers. So please, if there's something you like, something you didn't like, let us know. And more than likely, we get back to all of our fans. Also, please make sure you are following at THW Grindline on Twitter. We have a brand new page for this show. We are on Twitter. We are doing it, guys.
We are so Twitter
please,
official.
Yes. Make sure, give us a follow, retweet our stuff, send us a funny GIF or a meme. We all are in there and responding and engaging with our fans. So please make sure to follow us on there. With that, I hope everyone has a great week. We will see you next week. And I hope many happy returns for all you trade deadline fans. Have a great night, and thank you again for watching the Grind Line with the Hockey Writers.